Clip it. Save that for later.
Chris Anderson, how are you, my friend?
What's going on, buddy?
You are important, brother. You are. I will say it again. Words of wisdom, Chris.
Yeah, save that shit for later. Clip it.
What has your week been like, man? What have you been up to?
I'd love to tell you that I've been up to a lot, but it's Corona. We've been enjoying the Corona time. How about you?
Yeah, Corona
we
time.
talk about snacks a lot.
Been recording.
Like, what we're gonna snack on.
Dude, I'm eating oatmeal today. Like I made myself healthy breakfast. So it's been busy, man.
I have salami and cheese.
I found
California
snacking. Is that salami and cheese? One of the best snacks.
California snack packs.
There she is, MVP right there.
There's JoJo.
What's up, JoJo?
So what's going on?
Dude, looking to build millionaires. Chris, that is the plan. It hasn't changed. I got this big list of things I got to do. I wrote it down. I even made myself check boxes.
Nice.
Organized.
You know what Paul would say? He said, "Did you put that in Basecamp and use the Basecamp or whatever it is?" Or
Yup. He'd say use Basecamp, use that system, and then you can create check boxes in Basecamp too. But here's the deal. I got to get more organized. In fact, Basecamp, actually, I should get my own subscription because it would be good for the whole team. What are you using with your team? Do you guys operate with a system like that? Podio or Basecamp?
No, we don't. So we do a lot of the same stuff over and over, like in rentals. So It's like the same appliance packages, the same steps. I use the same contractors over and over again.
Yep.
So frankly, we don't really need much of a checkbox, like a check sheet. We do have one so we do have a new property acquisition checklist that we do. Yep. That's like, hey, what's the meter number? Which utility company is it? And then we have this walkthrough where so I don't know if you've experienced this, but we'll get to the end of a project and then we'll have like a dumb problem that nobody checked at the beginning. Like, one of the bedroom windows is painted shut and won't open, and you're like, what? Why didn't we check? Now it's 4 days before a tenant moves in and the window doesn't open, and you're like, well, we have to fix that, and so now you have to figure out how to fix the window, and so we have this thing where now it's part of our check sheet, and it's like, windows, do all the windows open and close? Like, do all the doors open and close? Yep. Stuff like that. Things that you're like, nobody ever shut the bedroom door. We didn't know it didn't close.
Right. Yeah,
those dumb things that happen.
Those little things. So you're not using electronic software for that. What do you use for managing? We use Buildium. Are you using Appfolio or something like that?
We use Tenant Cloud.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you used anything else, or is that the one you got in and just kept running with it?
No, so I started just using QuickBooks. I like Tenant Cloud.
Do you want a salami sandwich?
I am having salami and cheese, but I would love a real sandwich.
Do you want a salami sandwich?
It's lunchtime here at the Anderson house.
Do you want lettuce and pickles?
I love that. I would also like a sandwich. Me too.
Walter wants a sandwich, Benny. So I looked at Buildium and I just didn't. I got like they did the trial thing and I didn't love it, so I went with Tenant Cloud.
What do you like about Tenant Cloud?
A little less expensive to start, which was the thing for me. So Tenant Cloud, when you sign up for it, I don't remember what the Tenant Cloud. I think it's less expensive was the big thing. The like when you sign up for Buildium, I think it's ideal once you hit like 50 tenants.
Right.
But there's it's a cost thing. It was more expensive to start. It's cheaper for Tenant Cloud. Was my answer there.
That makes sense. I like it. All right, Chris, how is your coaching program going? What does it look like? What are you charging? Like, what exactly are the type of people should I be funneling your way?
All right, so that's a good question. So you and I were talking about the idea, or I like the idea of doing fulfillment. That's the part I really enjoy. I'm not as great at creating the funnel and driving people to the business, right? That's not actually my strongest suit.
Yeah.
I love the training and
I'll
the
bring
coaching. I'm not good at putting them into the program. So I basically have two programs. I have a bi-monthly coaching call that I do with people that's not education based, it's coaching, right? So it's about walking through the process that I charge $200 a month for. So it's $200 a month. There's usually 5 people in a call, and we just talk about kind of where you're at in the business, and we do those a couple times a week.
Wow.
The second program that I have is $4,000 for 3 months. So it's $4,000. It lasts for 3 months. It's 13 weeks, and it's weekly one-on-one calls, and then it's also $200 a month. So it's $4,000 plus $200 a month.
Yep.
And you are also part of the group coaching as well, but you get one-on-one coaching and group coaching. And it's a couple hours, and that's for the people that are like, hey, I'm really going to do this. The people who are really the ones who are like ready to take action and trying to build a business and just want to get a jump start on getting where they're going. So it's not for everybody. Like if you're like, hey, I'm not really sure, how quickly I'm going to engage, then group coaching is a good place to start. If you're really I'm going to do this kind of person, then you want one-on-one coaching, you know?
Yeah. And the one-on-one coaching is more expensive, but it's like, it's where the money's made. Right.
Right. Absolutely. Otherwise you're waiting to talk to me, right? You're waiting a much longer period of time before you, and in between, I do talk to students. If you have something that's going on, and you're like, hey, I need help with this, then we'll get on a call for 15 minutes and I'll kind of help you hash it out. If you're not driven to really make something happen, then you shouldn't be in either program. Functionally. Right. It's really like we're trying to invest our time where people can really take action. So that's really what this I guess conversation was kind of about is the idea of what's the synergy there, right? Like you want to do education, but you don't want to do coaching.
Right. Yeah, I definitely am not into the fulfillment side, which is what you're good at. The other question I had is what kind of investors, like what arena in investment? Are you talking wholesalers, flippers, rehab guys, multifamilies, single families? What do you really like to coach? Like, obviously, I know you've been through everything. You don't do anything.
So I don't do anything, right? So if you're like, hey, I want to be a note investor, right? I want to buy non-performing notes, and that's where I want to be. I'm like, hey, I don't do that. I can't coach you on that. I can tell you that there are people that I know that do that, and I can refer you to somebody else, but I don't. Other than the fact that it exists, I can't help you. If you want to do be short sale focused, like that's not my arena. If you're like, hey, I don't have any money and any access to resources, and I want to do creative real estate investing where I do owner financing as my primary business model. Well, I've done owner financing, but that's not really what I do. Right. What I do is I will tell you that there's the traditional path for real estate investors, as is presented in most of the books, is first you should be a wholesaler because wholesaling teaches you the fundamentals of learning how to acquire properties, and that will help you build up capital to fix and flip properties. You fix and flip properties for a while so that you can build up capital so that you can do buy and hold. Okay, that's a dumb system, right? So what I teach is you should be doing all three of those things. You should be, what we look for as investors is the highest and best use for a piece of property. So if you have a piece of property that is ideal for a fix and flip opportunity, you should look to fix and flip that if it fits your business model. If it does not fit your business model, then you should be wholesaling that property. So for me, I own buy and holds, but I own buy and holds in 5 towns. So when one shows up, even if it's a great deal, but it's 5 towns away from where I invest, I don't buy it. I wholesale that property because it doesn't fit my business model. My business model is I want to leverage into certain communities because the cash flow is great. I have resources in the market. And so I focus my business, right? So what you should do in my opinion, is build a list of criteria that is what your business should look like, and then that's what you do. Right. And so as real estate investors, this is where I started. What we look for is the highest and best use. So what's the highest and best use for this property in context of my business? And if that's to wholesale a property, then I wholesale it. Right. I wholesaled last year. I think we did a little over $500,000 in fees.
No kidding.
Yeah. So, that's a quarter of my business is wholesaling properties. I own a construction company. We did $1.4 million in sales last year.
Wow.
I did almost 1.5 million. We did $1.5 million in construction, right? I made money on that.
Right.
I own a property management company. We make money managing our own properties, and there's a fee structure for that. And then I owned rentals, and I got cash flow from there. And I fixed and flipped, I think, 6 properties last year.
Nice.
So all of those things are things that I do. So those are the things I coach on, right? So when I start out with a prospective student, I ask them what kind of business they're looking for, and then I tell them about mine. Because all I can teach you is to do what I do.
Same.
So if you don't want the business that I own, then I'm not your coach, right? You need to find a coach who plays your game, right? And that's what we're looking for in students is to.
I love that. So Chris, that makes it a lot easier, because one of the things Paul says all the time is confused mind says no, and it's the same in coaching, right? Like, what kind of coach are you? Now I know you do the wholesaling, you do the fix and flips, you do the buy and holds, you do a construction company, and you have a property management company for your own properties. Right. So I'm not going to send people to you if they're looking to do out of town investing, right? I'll send them to you if they're looking to invest in local area where they understand it. You're in 5 counties that you get, or 5 towns that you get. But so you're not going to do virtual wholesaling. It just wouldn't make sense to send them to you for that training.
Well, so let me just say this. So it's kind of interesting, because I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. Virtual wholesaling is like one of my favorite concepts right now. I love the concept of it. I think it's so neat that people think it works.
Right.
I don't. This is what I told the kid. I'm like, that sounds amazing, and that would be so awesome if it worked. I said, do you know anybody who made, I don't know, $250,000 last year doing that? And he goes, yeah, the guy in the video. I go, okay. Do you know anybody though? Do you know anybody that made significant money doing that? And he goes, no. You're right, because it doesn't really work. It's not that it and this is like the idea of buying turnkey rentals far away, right? It's the same principle. Like, why? What is so magical about Cincinnati that you think Cincinnati's a better investment? And they're like, well, I can get 10% cash on cash return.
For 3 families and 2 families, right? Like, if you're going to the South for larger buildings, if you're going like Florida or Texas for like 100-unit buildings, we just don't have them where we are. Like, North Carolina does have them, right? But,
right. So you don't have them, but even that, I would challenge you on whether or not my small multi-portfolio is better than your large portfolio, right? So I would put my 50 units up against a 50-unit apartment building any day. I will crush that investment.
Yeah.
The problem is
we're buying them cheaper.
I'm buying them better per unit at a higher rate of return, higher leverage, and more appreciation. You're not going to.
And you can the appreciation. You can split them up easier. Yep.
Right. So one of the challenges in that conversation is that when I hear those things, it's like, hey, so I did this. I do this presentation. I should post it, right? And I stole Paul's word, by the way, Maverick. And I go, Maverick real estate investing. I'm like, here's what it means to me. I was like, the second everybody tells you what is true, you need to challenge it, right? When somebody tells me something that is true to them, I always ask, like, hey, that's really interesting. Why do you believe that? And if you can't give me a real why, and if it boils down to I read it in a blog post or I saw it in a video on the internet, I'm out.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I need the data behind it. So when you're like, hey, I invest in so here's what I will tell you is that the mistake that's made is people buy out of state because they're trying to, and so Walter and I are both in the Northeast. So if you're not in the Northeast, out of state means Midwest down south. That's what it means to us. Right.
Yes.
And so if you're already there, then you're just like, we buy houses where we live, right? I always think the idea of buying where you live. Here's why. here's
Same
the
here.
simple fact of it. What you want is a property that meets your target rate of return that is as expensive as you can get. The highest priced property you can get that meets your target rate of return. Here's why. While the cash flow, if a property in South Carolina cash flow is 20% cash on cash return, and a property in New Jersey cash flow is 20% cash on cash return, that's the same rate of return. It doesn't matter where you bought it.
Right.
However, in New Jersey, you're more likely to achieve a greater rate of appreciation. You will get a greater level of debt service out of that property. And in the end, you're likely to have much more equity and much more wealth built in that same property.
Right.
So, for example, you buy property in Rochester, New York, which is a popular out-of-town turnkey place.
Yep.
Properties in the 80s sold for $40,000 or $50,000, and today you can buy the same properties for $60,000.
Right.
There are towns. The town I'm buying in Washington, in the 80s, you could buy properties for $50,000, and today you can buy those same properties for $250,000. So,
right.
where would you like to own? See my sandwiches.
Look at that sandwich.
Yeah,
the Anderson household, man.
Yeah.
Is the bread bigger there?
This is all right. Listen, if you want to know what rich people sandwiches looks like, this is rich people sandwiches.
There it is.
Okay. So
I love it. Your wife's just like, boom, drop it on the desk.
That was my daughter, my oldest daughter.
Your daughter's just dropping it in. She's out.
Yeah. She's on. They're on their shit. So, here's the thing. This is the hard part of the story is that you have to challenge the why behind everything, so you can understand what's really happening there. Right? You're better off. The best thing in real estate is leverage. The more leverage you can get, the better off you are. In rental properties, right? So let's start there. In rentals, you want to borrow as much money as you possibly can because the biggest benefit of this market is leverage. So if it cash flows at the rate you want and you can leverage it, hands down the best deal ever. You know, and that's what I coach on, right? So I coach a lot of the people I coach. You know, the end of the story is that every investor wants to be a buy and hold guy. So and you've heard me say this at the roundtable councils. I always say the same thing. Just go do that.
Yeah.
So do the thing you want to do, and along the way there'll be these other opportunities for you to make money. So do those things too. But your target is to be this thing. So stay focused on it. And so that's what I coach on. You know, I coach on real wealth building. I'm not a big fan of I wholesale properties, but I wholesale properties because we're good at acquiring contracts and it makes sense and it makes money.
Right.
But if you think that wholesaling is a way to create wealth, it is not. It is a way to create income. And fundamentally, when you come to me as a student, we start on a conversation about what's the difference between wealth and income. Like, if you have a job, you have income, and that's good. That's good. It helps you buy sandwiches. And computers and things like that.
But that extra sized bread, the good sandwiches, the real rich sandwiches.
That's wealth, right? Right.
That's wealth.
Right. Wealth is that next level, right? So like, when I was on, one of the things that was funny was when I was in the summit, right? We were in Jamaica, and we're talking about our goals for the year, and everybody there was like, I want to increase my income by this much, and I'm like, I don't want to increase my income. I want to add this much wealth to my bottom line. So that's that's what we coach on though. And
I agree 100% with that mission. Like me and Ron, we're not looking for income. The only downside to training is it does produce income, right? That's the only downside to doing all these education courses and training everybody is it produces income. And we're like, fuck, like we're not looking for income. We're looking for net worth. But it also brings us a ton of deals. I mean, the amount of deals that flow through the training it's so worth it.
Right, but that fundamentally, like, listen, when somebody challenges on me, like, hey, your coaching is really cheap. I go, yeah, because if you think I make money because I charge you $200, that's not how I made money. I make money because coaching is really long-term tryout for partnership. Right. That's really where it goes. Right. Yeah. We had one of our coaching students this month. Was looking for a property, and we had one that fit exactly his criteria for what he was looking to do. And I said, I'm like, hey, listen, I'm going to sell this property to somebody. Are you interested in looking at it? And so he looked at it and he's like, it's exactly what I want.
Right.
So I wholesaled a student a property, right?
Yep.
And it's a great investment, and I'm coaching him through the process and, you know, that whole thing. But that's where the opportunity comes in, right? It's this long-term relationship, and that's really what we're looking for. If I know that if I help create wealth in other people's families, they will also create wealth for my family.
Yeah, that's exactly true, right? So say you're 50-50 with somebody, they become a millionaire, you just became another millionaire, just stacked another million.
Yeah, you just add it. And so, and that's not insidious in nature, right? Like,
no.
like so here's the thing, right? It's the opposite, right? I'm really trying to create wealth for people. But like, you look at some of the other, we'll call them real estate coaching programs that are out there, the real estate education programs, is that they're like almost try to be sneaky about, no, listen, we have the best deal for you in finance. We're the best of this.
Right.
And they're trying to get you to buy into all of their services at a higher rate than you could just go get it on your own for. But you don't know that because you're in a real estate cult. You just don't know it.
Right. They're blinding you. Yeah, the real estate cult. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what they are. Like, you know, and I don't want to use their names because we're live. So.
Oh, for sure. No, we're on Facebook Live.
They have a lot of
all the wholesale groups. We're in the multifamily groups. So.
But listen, you definitely know who they are. And so they're real estate cults. And then you get the people who come out of them and they spend $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000.
Yeah.
And you get to the end and you know what they can't do? Flip a house. They can't wholesale a house. They can't own a rental. They don't know enough to do it. And they're like, and that's when they go, hey, for another $20,000, we'll coach you.
Right.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they bought $200 worth of education on Amazon, 3 hours worth of YouTube videos. And then the coaching is actually what they needed. Right.
That's
the
exactly
coaching is really where that's where the rubber meets the road. Right. It's, you know, I was on a coaching call on Sunday afternoon, right? We had a student who bought a property and he's just got to do the turnover, right? He's starting to he just acquired it and he's talking to his tenants about raising their rents. He's like, how do I do that? And so we had a 30-minute call where I explained the process and we went over how I present options and how we create opportunity.
Right.
And what our desired goal is, right? Because you have to go into those conversations knowing what you want to have happen so that you can help create that result. So he, you know, so it's like 30 minutes long. It was a great conversation.
Yep.
And then then they're good to go. And that's really what the hard part is of real estate.
Yeah, it's knowing in the moment, what do I do next? What do I do next? You know, it's not, hey, by the way, this is how you wholesale. This is how you find a deal. Like, anybody can figure out contracts, right? You can Google that shit. But in the moment of, hey, the guy said this to me and like, I don't know how to find the money, or I don't know like what to say to the tenant right now. Like, in those moments, you need a coach, right?
So so a great conversation. One of our, I think like our second student, right? The guy did, he called FSBOs and he called a for sale by owner, and the guy met with him. And so we had like a 10-minute conversation, like right before he went in, like, here's how to do the presentation and here's kind of what to say. And we had a good conversation. He's a great guy and he had a really great personality. And he goes in and he makes an offer on the house and he comes out and he's like, he calls me back. He's like, I don't know what to do now. I'm really nervous. I go, what happened? He goes, they said yes.
Oh,
I was like, oh, well, we need a contract. I'm like, let me get that over to you. So I get him over a contract and I'm like, okay, now you need to fill it out. And, you know, and then it's like a process, you know. Meanwhile, the book, you know, like the training courses go like this, put it under contract and then sell that contract to somebody else.
Yeah.
Do that and then make money. And you're like, oh, but where do I get a contract? And they're like, we don't know.
Right. And they're afraid to give you a contract because their class is out of Nevada and your state has a different contract, right? So it's
right.
Yeah. It definitely, the industry is designed to get people started, get people hyped up, but then follow through is where the coaches come in.
Right.
And you don't want a coach who hasn't done it, right? Like you said, you only teach what you've done.
Well, that's really important, you know, right? Because the internet is full of coaches who've never done what they talk about.
Yeah.
Or have never really been successful at what they talk about.
Right.
So that's the part where I'm like, hey, I'm not really bashful about the part where I make money doing this, right?
Yeah.
And so you're in Massachusetts, but here in New Jersey, we do these ride-alongs, right? So a few months ago, we had a guy on a ride-along, and this is maybe like 6 months ago, and I took him with me, and he spent the day with me, and we went. And people pay for that, by the way. They just literally hang out with me.
Yep.
And so we went to we were showing a property that we were wholesaling, 2 properties that we were wholesaling. So I showed them to an investor, to a couple of investors, both properties, same town. We sold this one investor both properties. We also sold them the contract to renovate both properties. Then we brokered the money that they were borrowing to finance both properties. Then we went to lunch, and I'm sitting at lunch, and I'm like, hey, so we're kind of, like now it's like 1 o'clock, and I'm like, hey, we're coming to the end. Did you have any questions while we're eating lunch? He's like, yeah. He's like, I don't really understand how you make money. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, dude, you literally just watched me do it. I'm like, I just wholesaled 2 properties. My partners and I made $50,000. I said, then we did construction. I'm like, I'll break down the cost for you, but the construction projects, I'm going to make around another $20,000. I was like, and you just signed up for my coaching program. I just made $4,000. Like, how did you not? I had the best day I've ever had financially today, and you're like, I'm not really sure I understand.
Like, how did you miss all the money just made just now?
Right, like you just watched me do it. And I literally said, and he's like, yeah, but how do you do it? He's like, I'm like, well, you just, like, you watched it live in action. Like, this is not, you were like, how do you make an omelet? Like, it begins by cracking an egg, right? You watched me crack the eggs. You just got to put it together for yourself now. Like, that's how you do it. And so the guy signed up for the coaching program, and he's been in the program for like 6 months, and he just put his first property under contract. And so that's pretty exciting, because this is a guy who was really struggling, right? You can kind of see that he's not kind of putting it together. He's a really smart guy, but he's like resistant to the steps.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, we spent a lot of time on I need you to make 5 offers. Well, how much do I offer? I don't care what you offer. Just make 5 offers. Offer $1. I just need you to sign something. Fucking sign something, okay?
Yep.
And so finally the guy makes an offer. He puts a house under contract for like I think it was 140 or 145,000. A multifamily.
Yep.
He's just about to get a contract. He found a buyer at 205. The guy's making bank. He's gonna make a $60,000 commission. And so he called me up, and he's like, that I wasn't sure about this, but there might really be something to this.
Yeah, like no kidding. That's awesome. Yeah. But it took him 6 months. He's one of those guys who's just analysis paralysis, thinking about everything, overthinking everything, and struggling with making the decision, pulling the trigger. And it takes a coach saying, hey, go, take action now. Like, this is the one. And 6 months, even some of the toughest people, you can still get them to move. It's awesome.
Well, right. So that's the biggest challenge. So like as a coach, the biggest challenge is how to work with somebody who's not taking action, right? And so that's hard. It is hard to kind of help people. If you ask me, the thing that I sell the most really isn't information, right? Like when you hire a coach, the biggest thing I think you're hiring is the confidence to take the next step.
Yep.
Because what I promise you as a coach is that when you get to the next step and you don't fully understand, then I'm there for you, right? It's like, hey, you don't have to know how to negotiate a tenant, rent increase. I do. You just have to know that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And by understanding that it's going to happen, we'll go over it once you get there. Like nothing happens that fast in real estate. Like we all pretend like this is the high speed business, but it's a lot of hurry up and wait. A lot of waiting.
Yeah. There's nothing high speed about this business. I swear to God, like everything's like, put under contract, closing in 10 fucking months. Like, we'll see.
and even when we try to do something fast, you're like, fast is a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's absolutely nothing. Like in real estate, it's not crazy to be like, hey, let me consult my partners and I'll get back to you. Right. And then you call somebody back 2 days later. Like that's normal.
The fastest thing we do is put a unit that's finished on the market, right? But even then, you got to go over there, take pictures of it, and post that shit. Like even then, you're talking a couple of hours, right? Like, just put it online.
It's still like a day. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And then Zillow's got to update, and it's got to go to all the other ones, and then you post it. It took you a whole day to do one thing.
Right. You know, turning a unit's 2 weeks. Renting out a unit's 2 weeks. Like these are things that it all stacks up. Put it online another week. Like acquisition of the property 2 to 3 months. Like we're just thinking in our heads 2 to 3 months if everything goes well.
Right.
If it works out.
Right. You could get it done in 30 days. We've also had ones that we took like 7 months to close on, 8 months.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, we had a portfolio of mortgages that took like 7 months to close. Like it was from like, I mean, it took forever to just close this mortgage because it would go on so long that they're like, we need updated bank statements. And you're like, how is this another month? You know, like I should just put you on and they'll email them automatically to you, you know?
Right. So Chris, how do you feel about this? I'm in the middle of a refinance right now. And every single week the lender's like, yeah, we're waiting to lock it in. We've changed our rates right now, so we're holding off. We got all this PPP coming through, so we're pushing these loans off. You guys are okay, right? Yeah, we're fucking fine, but we'd really like to be at a lower rate right now.
Yeah, right. So I was supposed to close a loan the week that Governor Murphy, I'm in New Jersey, locked down the state, and they're like, yeah, we're not doing it. And I was like, well, last week you said Wednesday, like we have. Like, I have preliminary HUDs, and they're like, yeah, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
They're like, we'll let you know when we want to do it. I was
Right.
like, I don't know. And so now I waited for a while, and they're like, give us 2 weeks. And 2 weeks later, it was like, give us 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
Right
Call
now,
us on Friday.
Yeah.
So
nobody's at the
frustrating.
office. Like, leave a message. We'll get back to you next week.
Yeah. So I spent all last week just calling through everybody, all the local lenders, being like, hey, you doing loans? You doing loans? You doing loans? I'm going to the smallest bank I can find. Just be like, you want to do a $1.5 million loan? It's all you need to get your bonus for the year.
Right. You'll get all good for the month for sure. Like whatever you need to originate, this is it.
Yep.
Yeah,
So Chris,
it's a tough one right now for sure. The Burr method, right? We're stuck at the refinance R.
Refinance, which is right before repeat, because I'm really looking forward to repeat, but we're at the refinance. Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. I have I don't know 6 or 7 loans right now that are stuck that aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, and we're at 12%. Are you in that vicinity of 10%, 12%?
Yeah. So some of them are held internally, so we're paying 10%, but to partners. So it doesn't really, I don't really care that much.
Right.
There's some that are actually with lenders though.
Yeah.
Although this is kind of cool. We have one fix and flip we're completely stuck on, and nobody's buying anything, and it's in the $700,000 price range. So it's a really tough price point. Don't laugh. And so
I'm just like, fuck. I wouldn't want to hold that right now.
Yeah, and so the lender actually called us and was like, hey, we'll do a refi on this one. They dropped the rate to 8%. And we had a really good loan to value. Like we were only at 60% loan to value.
Yeah.
So they took 6 months and they're rolling it into the mortgage. So I don't have any payments for 6 months, and the new rate is 8%.
Wow.
And they're waiving all the origination fees, no points, nothing. And it's all because the loan was coming due. And they're like, hey, can you pay this off? And I go, no, you're going to have to extend. And they didn't want to go. The guy who owns the company talked to me. He's like, hey, we don't want to go to our credit agency and tell them that we have all these non-performing loans because they won't give us more money. So it's better for them to refinance the debt than to report it as non-performing.
That's phenomenal. I love that. Chris, I'm gonna let my lenders know, hey guys, just so you know, as long as I'm paying, you're doing good. Let's drop the interest rates. Nah, kidding. Most of my lenders are really close friends, and I don't want to. Yeah, I like that. So, Chris, I like that. So, your coaching is 3 months. It's a 3-month coaching period. It's $4,000, which is cheap, and then and that's every single week. You're doing a one-on-one with them.
Yeah. So, one-on-one coaching is $4,000 for 3 months.
That's intensive. That's a lot.
And then plus you get the group coaching, which is $200 a month. So it's actually $4,600 for 3 months. The $200 you can continue as long as you want. Like we have, I mean, functionally, I have students who are in there more than a year now. So,
and what is
they're still doing real estate.
What is the group coaching? What is that?
So the group coaching is usually 4 or 5 students all on one call. and we kind of do so there's training, but it's on task with what you're doing in your business. So if you're doing like direct mail, we will talk about direct mail for 15 minutes and talk about the specifics of your direct mail. If you're in the middle of refinancing a property, we'll discuss refinancing properties and loan programs and different options that are out there. Whatever you're at is what we talk about. That group coaching experience is actually pretty cool because it, and then at the end of the group coaching call, we all kind of make commitments to one another on what we're going to do for the next 2 weeks. Till we talk next. The next 2 weeks we come back and 40% of the group did what they said they would do.
Yeah. Accountability is important. I love it. Yeah, Chris, those are good programs.
We're no different than we're no different than anybody else though. Like we try to create accountability, but we need our students to play, and there's no And I tell them like, hey, listen, it's a Friday after evening or whatever. We get together and we're doing a call. I'm like, hey, listen, you should know I made $500 talking to you for an hour, so it's cool by me if we don't. Like, dude, I'll play Jenga with you if you want. I mean, like, we'll play. I can play hearts with you on the computer. I got paid $500.
Right. It's like if you don't want to produce, that's up to you. But I'd really like to see you go somewhere, have a greater conversation. But so what do? You do it on Friday nights?
No, so I do multiple calls because it's a small group. So So we have a Saturday morning, we have a Friday evening, so we have a couple of them.
Nice.
It depends on where the groups are. Sometimes I'll break one off. Like if somebody's like really having a hard time or really like not getting one thing and they need training, like I'll break it out separately and pull somebody aside and be like, hey, why don't we do a one-on-one for a half hour?
Yep.
I function right now. I've been very generous with my time because in my business I don't have a lot to do.
Right.
So
the refinance is slowing down.
I have time. So the alternative is that I sit around and hang out, or maybe I can help some students. So I'd rather help students.
This is actually, I think, the best time for guys like us to be in the position we're in. I think the whole economy freezing up the banks has stopped the big guys from making moves. It's put us on pause because once the banks open back up, we're back in the game. But it's also allowed us to reach down and say, okay, look, you guys don't need the big banks. You guys are just using residential loans. Like those are still running. Here's how we can help you, right? You're wholesaling, easy. Yeah, we can definitely help you. You can still move during this. We're more reliant on institutional funds, right? So we're slowing down a little bit. So your time has opened up. Our time has opened up, and we're providing more mentorship, more coaching, because during right now, like create a little scarcity, right? During right now, we can do this. Once shit opens back up, you better believe we're back on our grind. It's like, hold on,
right. Actually, when things open up, there might be so much opportunity. We might even be more at it, right? That we might have less time for stuff. Because that's the time, right? I always kind of joke around. My call log before Corona was probably 50 to 70 phone calls a day. Yep. Now I'm doing half that, 25.
Yeah. And so it's reduced the amount of activity you're putting in. So during Corona, like, okay, he's got a little more free time for coaching. But as soon as it's over, those phone calls are coming back up. It's like, dude, what are you going to take? You're going to take a coaching call or you're going to take a money call? You're going to go get that money. Now, obviously, anybody who's in the program you take care of.
I do both, and I like to think that I balance both well. So like I'm really big on like I'll have students call me, and so one of the things that's different is you get Zoom calls now. When I'm on the road working, you get a lot more phone calls.
Totally.
My group coaching is always a Zoom call, but before it was a lot of, hey, I've got 10 minutes till my GPS says I have 10 minutes, go, know, and that's your 10 minutes. And I give that to a student, but it's a different kind of experience right now. So, if you're looking for coaching, like this is the moment,
Yep. This is the time, like even big, like guys bigger than us, man. I was on the phone with a guy yesterday, Nizam, and he has 700 units and he's been a player in the game for a while, but he's, his banks are asking for 12-month reserves, right? Like 16-month reserves. He's like, look, like we're not showing those reserves. So he's like, I can't buy anything right now. So, doing the mentorship program, doing these coaching programs. Like everybody's opening up a little bit right now and saying, yeah, you know what, maybe I should do a little more training for people. That's another avenue for me to spend my time. But as soon as like lending opens back up, our time frame goes back to what we do. We just go and we buy more property. So it's cool. I'm glad that Chris, we get to hang out more now. That things have shifted. Our energies have shifted a little bit. And we're able to work on this together. So I'm looking forward to presenting this to some of my students, because they could use somebody who's going to be there and answer the phone for them, even if it is 5-10 minutes to get them going forward. So Chris Anderson, thank you so much, my friend. Cheers to your success.
Thanks, Gwelder. I'll talk to you later, bud. Have a good day.
You too.